Section 1 of the Peter-Patter Book of Nursery Rhymes. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by LittlePeanut. The Peter-Patter Book of Nursery Rhymes by Leroy F. Jackson. Peter Patter told them to me, all the little rhymes, whispered them among the bushes 100 times. Peter lives upon a mountain pretty near the sun, knows the bears and birds and rabbits, nearly every one, has a home among the alders, bed of cedar bark, walks alone beneath the pine trees even when it's dark. Squirrels tell him everything that happens in the trees. Cricket in the gander grass sings of all he sees, rhymes from bats and butterflies, crabs and waterfowl, but best of all he gets from his Uncle Owl. Sometimes when it's daytime, but mostly in the night, they sit beneath an oak tree and hug each other tight, and tell their rhymes and riddles, where the catty creatures prowl, funny little Peter Patter and his Uncle Owl. Copper down a crack. Jingle, jingle, jack, a copper down a crack. 20 men and all their wives, with sticks and picks and pocket knives, digging for their very lives to get the copper back. I'm much too big for a fairy. I'm much too big for a fairy, and much too small for a man. But this is true, whatever I do it the best I can. Did you ever play tag with a tiger? Did you ever play tag with a tiger, or ever play boo with a bear? Did you ever put rats in the rain barrel to give poor old Granny a scare? It's fun to play tag with a tiger. It's fun for the bear to say boo, but if rats are found in the rain barrel, old Granny will put you in too. The Blue Song. Hot mush and molasses in a blue bowl, eat it, it's good for you, sonny. 'Twill make you grow tall as a telephone pole, eat it, it's good for you, sonny. Fresh fish and potatoes all on a blue plate, eat it up smart now, my sonny. 'Twill make you as jolly and fat as Aunt Kate, eat it up quick now, my sonny. Sweet milk from a nanny goat in a blue cup, drink it, it's good for you, sonny. 'Twill fill you, expand you, and help you grow up, and make a real man of you, sonny. Hippity-hop to bed. Oh, it's hippity-hop to bed. I'd rather sit up instead, but when Father says must, there's nothing but just go hippity-hop to bed. Away to the river. Away to the river, away to the wood, while the grasses are green and the berries are good, where the locusts are scraping their fiddles and bows, and the bees keep a-comin' wherever one goes. Oh, it's off to the river and off to the hills, to the land of the bloodroot and wild daffodils, with a buttercup blossom to color my chin, and a basket of birds to put sandberries in. Our little Pat. Our little Pat was chasing the cat and kicking the kittens about. When Mother said quit, he ran off to sit on top of the woodpile and pout. But a sly little grin soon slid down his chin and let all the sulkiness out. End of Section 1. Section 2 of the Peter Patter Book of Nursery Rhymes by Leroy F. Jackson. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by LittlePeanut. The Animal Show. Father and Mother and Bobby will go to see all the sights at the animal show, where lions and bears sit on dining room chairs, where a camel is able to stand on a table, where monkeys and seals all travel on wheels, and a Zulu baboon rides a baby balloon. The sooner you're ready, the sooner we'll go aboard, all aboard for the animal show. Tommy Trimble. Billy be nimble, hurry and see old Tommy Trimble climbing a tree. He claws with his fingers and digs with his toes. The longer he lingers, the slower he goes. Dickie, Dickie, Dexter. Dickie, Dickie, Dexter had a wife and vexed her. She put him in a rabbit cage and fed him peppermint and sage. Dickie, Dickie, Dexter. On the road to Tattletown. On the road to Tattletown, what is this I see? A pig upon a pedestal? A cabbage up a tree? A rabbit cutting capers with a $20 bill? Now, if I don't get to Tattletown, then no one ever will. Polly and Peter. Polly had some china cows, and Peter had a gun. She turned the bossies out to browse, and Peterkin, for fun, just peppered them with butter beans and blew them all to smithereens. Now, what will pretty Polly do? For milk and cream and butter too. I went to town on Monday. I went to town on Monday to buy myself a coat, but on the way I met a man who traveled in a caravan and bought a billy goat. I went to town on Tuesday and bought a fancy vest. I kept the pretty buckle straps, buttonholes, and pocket flaps, and threw away the rest. I went to town on Thursday to buy a loaf of bread, but when I got there, goodness sakes, the town was full of rattlesnakes. The bakers all were dead. I went to town on Saturday to get myself a wife, but when I saw the lady fair, I gnashed my teeth and pulled my hair and scampered for my life. Where are you going? Where are you going, Sister Kate? I'm going to swing on the garden gate and watch the fairy gypsies dance. Their tim-tam-tum on the cabbage plants, the great big one with the purple nose and the tiny tat with the pinky toes. Where are you going, Brother Ben? I'm going to build a tiger pen. I'll get iron and steel and electric wire and build it 100 feet or higher and put 10 tigers in it too, and a big wildcat, and maybe you. Where are you going, Mother mine? I'm going to sit by the old grapevine and watch the gliding swallow bring clay for her nest from the meadow spring. Clay and straw and a bit of thread to weave into a baby's bed. Where are you going, Grandma dear? I'm going, love, where the skies are clear, and the light winds lift the poppy flowers and gather clouds for the summer showers, where the old folks and children play on the warm hillside through the livelong day. Christopher Crump. Christopher Crump, all in a lump, sits like a toad on the top of a stump. He stretches and sighs and blinks with his eyes, bats at the beetles and fights off the flies. End of section 2. Section 3 of the Peter Patter Book of Nursery Rhymes by Leroy F. Jackson. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by LittlePeanut. Pinky Pinky Pang. A tortoise sat on a slippery limb and played his pinky pang for a dogfish friend that called on him, and this is what he sang. Oh, the skies are blue, and I wait for you to come where the willows hang, and dance all night by the white moonlight to my pinky, pinky pang. Tick-tock. Tick-tock, tick-tock, 4:11 by the clock. Tick-tock, tick-tock, put your ear to Grandpa's ticker like a pancake, only thicker. Tick-tock, tick-tock, catch a squirrel in half a minute, grab a sack and stick him in it. Tick-tock, tick-tock, Mr. Bunny feeds on honey, tea and taters, ain't it funny? Tick-tock, tick-tock, when he goes to bed at night, shoves his slippers out of sight. That's why old Fox the Sinner had to go without his dinner. Tick-tock, tick-tock, so says Grandpa's clock. Under the willow. Put down your pillow under the willow, hang up your hat in the sun, and lie down to snooze as long as you choose, for the plowing and sowing are done. Pick up your pillow from under the willow and clamber out into the sun. Get a fork and a rake, for goodness sake, for the harvest time has begun. High on the mantel. High on the mantel rose a moan. It came from an idol carved in bone. Oh, it's so lonesome here alone, with no one near to love me. A cautious smile came over the face of a pensive maid on a Grecian vase. Are you sure, she said with charming grace, there's no one near to love you? Boots, boots, boots. Buster's got a pupper gun, a regular one that shoots, and Teddy's got an engine with a whistler that toots. But I've got something finer yet, a pair of rubber boots. Oh, it's boots, 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 a pair of rubber boots. I could walk from here to China in a pair of rubber boots. Butterfly. Butterfly, butterfly, sit on my chin. Your wings are like tinsel, so yellow and thin. Butterfly, butterfly, give me a kiss. If you give me a dozen, there's nothing amiss. Butterfly, butterfly, off to the flowers, wee soulless sprite of the long summer hours. Beela by the sea. Catch a floater, catch an eel, catch a lazy whale. Catch an oyster by the heel and put him in a pail. There's lots of work for Uncle Ike, Fatty Ford, and me, all day long and half the night at Beela by the sea. A matter of taste. Thank you, dear, said the big black ant. I'd like to go home with you now, but I can't. I have to hurry and milk my cows, the aphid herds on the aster boughs. The ladybug said, no doubt it's fine, this milk you get from your curious kine, but you know quite well it's my belief your cows are best when turned to beef. End of section 3. Section 4 of the Peter-Patter Book of Nursery Rhymes by Leroy F. Jackson. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by LittlePeanut. Tommy, my son. Tommy, my son, said the old tabby cat, go catch us some mice, and be sure that they're fat. There's one family lives in the carpenter's barn. They've made them a nest of the old lady's yarn. But the carpenter has a young cat of his own that is healthy and proud and almost full grown. And consider it, son, an internal disgrace to come home at night with a scratch on your face. Oh, said the worm. Oh, said the worm, I'm awfully tired of sitting in the trees. I want to be a butterfly and chase the bumblebees. Buzzy Brown. Buzzy Brown came home from town as crazy as a loon. He wore a purple overcoat and sang a Sunday tune. Buzzy Brown came home from town as proud as he could be. He found 3 doughnuts and a bun a-growin' on a tree. The wind. The wind came a-whooping down Cranberry Hill and stole an umbrella from Mother Medill. It picked up a paper on Patterson's place and carried it clean to the rockabye race. And what was more shocking and awful than that? It blew the new feather off Grandmother's hat. The Hobo Band. The roads are good and the weather's grand, so I'm off to play in the Hobo Band. With a gas pipe, flute, and a cowhide drum, I'm going to make the music come. With a toot-toot-toot and a dum-dum-dum, just hear me make the music come. A Beetle on a Broomstraw. A robin and a wren, as they walked along one night, saw a big brown beetle on a broomstraw. Said the robin to the wren, "What a pretty, pretty sight, that big brown beetle on a broomstraw." So they got their plates and knives, their children and their wives, and gobbled up the beetle on the broomstraw. Mule Thoughts. A silly little mule sat on a milking stool and tried to write a letter to his father. But he couldn't find the ink, so he said, "I'd rather think this writing letters home is too much bother." A candle, a candle. A candle to light me to bed. A pillow to tuck up my head. The moon is as sleepy can be. The stars are all pointing their fingers at me. And Mrs. Hop Robin, way up in her nest, is rocking her tired little babies to rest. So give me a blanket to tuck up my toes, and a little soft pillow to snuggle my nose. End of section 4. Section 5 of the Peter Patter Book of Nursery Rhymes by Leroy F. Jackson. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by LittlePeanut. Baxter. Baxter had a billy goat, wall-eyed and double-jointed. He took him to the barber's shop and had his head anointed. Loddy, Gin, and Zander. Loddy, Gin, and Zander rode to market on a gander, bought a crane for $50. Loddy led him by the collar. Mr. Crane said, "Hi there, master. Can't you make your legs work faster? We can't poke along this way." Then he slowly flew away. Loddy held him fast, you bet, and he hasn't come home yet. As I was going down the hill in front of Mrs. Knapp's, I saw the little Knapperines all in their winter wraps, purple mitts and mufflers, and knitted jersey caps. As I was coming back again in front of Mrs. Knapp's, I saw that awful lady give about a dozen slaps to every little Knapperine. I thought it was perhaps because they gathered stickers in their knitted jersey caps. A little boy ran to the end of the sky. A little boy ran to the end of the sky with a rag and a pole and a gooseberry pie. He cried, "3 cheers for the 4th of July, with a rag and a pole and a gooseberry pie." He saw 3 little donkeys at play. He tickled their noses to make them bray, and he didn't come back until Christmas Day, with a rag and a pole and a gooseberry pie. Discretion. A man with a nickel, a sword and a sickle, a pipe and a paper of pins, set out for the Niger to capture a tiger, and that's how my story begins. When he saw the wide ocean, he soon took a notion 'twould be nicer to stay with his friends. So he traded his hat for a tortoise-shell cat, and that's how the chronicle ends. A beetle once sat on a barberry twig. A beetle once sat on a barberry twig and turned at the crank of a thingamajig. Needles for hornets and nippers for ants. For the bumblebee baby, a new pair of pants. For the grizzled old gopher, a hat and a wig. The beetle ground out of his thingamajig. The Thieves. Tibbets and Bibbets and Solomon Sly ran off one day with a cucumber pie. Tibbets was tossed by a Kensington cow. Bibbets was hanged on a brambleweed bough. And poor little Solomon, what do you think? He was drowned one dark night in a bottle of ink. Upon the Irish Sea. Someone told Maria Ann told me, that kittens ride in coffee cans upon the Irish Sea. From quiet caves to rolling waves, how jolly it must be to travel in a coffee can upon the Irish Sea. But when it snows and when it blows, how would you like to be? A kitten in a coffee can upon the Irish Sea. End of section 5. Section 6 of the Peter Patter Book of Nursery Rhymes by Leroy F. Jackson. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by LittlePeanut. Duckle Daisy. Duckle, duckle, daisy, Martha must be crazy. She went and made a Christmas cake of olive oil and gluten flake and set it in the sink to bake. Duckle, duckle, daisy. I've got a new book. I've got a new book from my grandfather Hyde. It's skin on the cover and paper inside. It reads about Arabs and horses and slaves, and tells how the Caliph of Baghdad behaves. I'd not take a goat and $1 beside for the book that I got from my grandfather Hyde. The Carrot and the Rabbit. A carrot in a garden, and a rabbit in the wood. Said the rabbit, beg your pardon, but you're surely meant for food. Though you started in to harden, you may still be very good. Hippy-Hi-Hoppy. Hippy-Hi-Hoppy, the big fat toad, greeted his friends at the turn of the road. He said to the snail, here's a ring for your tail if you go into town for my afternoon mail. Said he to the rat, I have talked with the cat, and she'll nab you so quick you won't know where you're at. He said to the lizard, I'm really no wizard, but I'll show you a trick that will tickle your gizzard. Said he to the lark, when it gets fairly dark, we'll chase mosquitoes in Peekaboo Park. Said he to the owl, if it were not for your scowl, I'd like you as well as most any wildfowl. Said he to the wren, you're tiny, but then I'll marry you quick if you only say when. Up on the garden gate. Set me up on the garden gate and put on my Sunday tie. I want to be there with a round-eyed stare when the circus band goes by. Give me a bag of suckerettes and give me a piece of gum. Then I'll get down and treat the clown and give the monkey some. Most any chip. Most any chip will do for a ship if only the cargo be golden sand from the beautiful land of far-off Arcady. For faith will waft the tiny craft o'er fancy's shining sea. A moon song. Who hung his hat on the moon, the owl in his bubble balloon. One bright summer night he sailed out of sight, and hooting like Lucifer hung in delight his three-cornered hat on the moon. What makes you laugh? What makes you laugh, my little lass, from morning until noon? I saw a dappled donkey throwing kisses at the moon. What makes you cry, my little lass, and get your eyes so red? I saw a cruel gardener cut a poor old cabbage head. What makes you run, my little lass? You're almost out of breath. A pumpkin made a face at me and scared me half to death. End of section 6. Section 7 of the Peter Patter Book of Nursery Rhymes by Leroy F. Jackson. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by LittlePeanut. Timmy O'Toole. When Timmy O'Toole was going to school, he picked up a package of gum. He treated the preacher and the Sunday school teacher and gave the policeman some. A man came from Malden. A man came from Malden to buy a blue goose. And what became of the gander? He went and got tipsy on blackberry juice, and that was the end of the gander. Baron Batteroff. The mighty Baron Batteroff raised a whale in a watering trough. When the whale grew large and fat, he ate the Baron's brindle cat, but pussy, once inside the whale, began to tickle with her tail. This the monster could not stand, and spewed her upon dry land. That night, when all was fine as silk, and she had supped her bread and milk, she grinned and told old Batteroff how she got the whale to cough. 6 little salmon. I sing a funny song from away out west of 6 little salmon with their hats on. How they all left home, but I forget the rest. The 6 little salmon with their hats on. To Gary on the Toot-Toot. Oh, I want to go to Gary on the Toot-Toot, Toot-Toot. You and I together on the Toot-Toot, Toot-Toot. Go run and ask your mother for some kind of cake or other, and a bit of cotton wadding for your ball suit. Get your bobber and a bat, and be back as quick as scat, for we've got to go to Gary on the Toot-Toot. Double Dune. Bobbin rode a rocking horse way down to Double Dune. He told his little sister he'd be back that afternoon. But maybe after all she didn't understand him right, for he wasn't back again till the middle of the night. And what did little Bobbin see way down at Double Dune? He saw a crazy Arab throwing bubbles at the moon, a monkey making faces, and a rabbit in a rage, a parrot shouting murder from the ceiling of its cage. At last a yellow jumping jack, a camel, and a coon chased poor little Bobbin all the way from Double Dune. The Party. Billy Bluebird had a party in an elder tree, but the little black-eyed smarty didn't ask us to his party, neither you nor me. This is what they had for dinner, for I peeked to see. Apple seeds and beetle finner, and for drink the little sinner gave them tansy tea. But there came an awful clatter from that elder tree when he served them on a platter hopper hash and brick dust batter trimmed with celery. All the folks were hale and hearty, happy as could be. And that little black-eyed smarty left out of his funny party only you and me. I've got a yellow puppy. I've got a yellow puppy, and I've got a speckled hen. I've got a lot of little spotted piggies in a pen. I've got a gun that used to shoot, another one that squirts. I've got some horehound candy and a pair of woolen shirts. I've got a little rubber ball they use for playing golf, and Mama thinks that may be why I've got the whooping cough. End of section 7. Section 8 of the Peter-Patter Book of Nursery Rhymes by Leroy F. Jackson. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by LittlePeanut. Dr. McSwaddle. Dr. McSwaddle filled up a bottle with vinegar, varnish, and rum, and offered a swallow to all who would follow the call of his trumpet and drum. It's good, I am told, for a cough or a cold. It's good for a pain in your thumb. Columbus. Columbus sailed over the ocean blue to find the United States. In 3 small ships he carried his crew, and none of the 3 were mates. He found a land in the western seas, and Indians galore, with jabbering parrots in the trees, and sharks along the shore. He filled his pockets with sparkling stones, and took to the mighty main, with a couple of slaves, some nuts and cones, for the glorious King of Spain. Now this is the tale Columbus told, and most of it is true, how he crossed the seas a sailor bold in 1492. Terrible Tim. Haven't you heard of Terrible Tim? Well, don't you get in the way of him. He eats lions for breakfast and leopards for lunch, and gobbles them down with one terrible crunch. He could mix a whole city all up in a mess. He could drink up a sea or an ocean, I guess. You'd better be watching for Terrible Tim, and run when you first get your peepers on him. What's the use? What's the use, said the goose, to swim like a frog, when you go just as far when you float on a log? Why should I, said the fly, suck an old apple core when there's sugar and fruit in the grocery store? But it's right, said the kite, that I follow the wind. What's a fellow to do if he hasn't a mind? You'll allow, said the cow, that I'm really no thief. When I turn all the clover I steal into beef. Come again, said the hen, on some other fine day. Don't think 'cause I cackle I always must lay. All aboard for Bombay. All aboard for Bombay, all aboard for Rome. Leave your little sisters and your loving aunts at home. Bring a bit of baling wire, a pocket full of nails, and 6 wienerwursts for every man that sails. Tell Terry Tag when you go by, be sure to bring his dog. All aboard for Bombay on a floating cedar log. Water. There's water in the rain barrel and water in the well. There's lots of water in the pond where Hannah Hawkins fell. There's water in the ocean and water in the skies. And when a fellow blubbers, he gets water in his eyes. But in the Barca desert where the hippledoodles play, the water in the river just dries up and blows away. Old Molly is lowing. Old Molly is lowing and lowing, way down in the old meadow lot. I've given her water and clover, and all of the apples I've got. But she won't eat a thing that I give her, and never drinks even a sup. For they've taken her baby to market, and someone has eaten it up. I'd just like to go to the city and cut them all up into halves and feed them to sharks and to lions, those people who eat little calves. Snowflakes. The snowflakes are falling by ones and by twos. There's snow on my jacket and snow on my shoes. There's snow on the bushes and snow on the trees. It's snowing on everything now, if you please. End of section 8. Section 9 of the Peter Patter Book of Nursery Rhymes by Leroy F. Jackson. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by LittlePeanut. Dippy-Dippy-Davy. Dippy-Dippy-Davy, half the Royal Navy, in the dampness and the dark, was driving off a savage shark to Dippy-Dippy-Davy. When I'm as rich as Uncle Claus. When I'm as rich as Uncle Claus with whiskers on my chin, I'm going to have a great big house to put my people in. I'll never let them wander out or ride with me to town. They'll come a-running when I shout and tremble when I frown. I'll have some men in soldier tents and a pirate and his mate, and wildcats all around the fence and mad dogs at the gate. Rinky-Tattle. Rinky-Tattle, Rinky-Tattle, Rinky-Tattle who? Little Tommy Taylor is a Rinky-Tattle too. 20 little snowflakes. 20 little snowflakes climbing up a wire. Now listen, said their mother, don't you climb any higher. The sun will surely catch you and scorch you with his fire. But the naughty little snowflakes didn't mind a word she said. Each tried to clamber faster than his fellow just ahead. They thought that they'd be back in time enough to go to bed, but they found that their mother wasn't quite the dunce they thought her. The sun bobbed up, remember this, my little son and daughter, and turned those 20 snowflakes into 20 drops of water. Slippery Slim. Slippery Slim, a garter snake, leaned against a garden rake and smiled a sentimental smile at Tilly Toad on the gravel pile, till that bashful miss was forced to hop and hide her face in a carrot top. The Freighter. Through fog and rain I run my train wherever the track is laid, and over the road I carry a load wherever the freight is paid. A caddy of tea for Genesee, for Troy an empty crate. A man in brown for Uniontown to help them celebrate. No one at home. No one at home in the hen house, and no one at home in the barn. Old Brindle has gone to the neighbors to borrow a skein of brown yarn, to borrow yarn for the darning of socks for her wee spotted calf. The little rollicking rascal has never enough by half. And Speckle is down by the willow, washing her chicks in the lake, while old Daddy Cockle is lying abed with a bad toothache. Patters and Tatters. Patters had a gallant band, an army made of clay, but Tatters took the garden holes and watched them all away. End of section 9. Section 10 of the Peter-Patter Book of Nursery Rhymes by Leroy F. Jackson. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by LittlePeanut. Crown the king with carrot tops. Crown the king with carrot tops, dress him in sateen. Give him lots of licorice drops, with suckers in between. For he's a king with lots of power, and awful, awful fierce. He kills a pirate every hour, and washes in his tears. He rides a charger 10 feet high, a dashing dapple gray, has ginger pop and lemon pie for breakfast every day. So get a royal canopy, the finest ever seen, and whiskers for his majesty, and tresses for the queen. The Canada Goose. A Canada goose on the South Palouse is singing her summer song. Her words are wise, and she greets the skies with a voice like a steamer gong. If you harbor your wealth and keep your health, you'll always be rich and strong. Hipperty-clickerty-clackerty-bang. Hipperty-clipperty-clackerty-bang. Get in a corner as fast as you can. The sideboard is tipsy, the table is mad. The chairs have lost all the sense that they had. So hipperty-clickerty-clackerty-bang. Get in a corner as fast as you can. Sonny. A sailor gave his sonny nearly half a pint of money and sent him out to buy a ton of coal. But he met a poor old miser who told him it was wiser to bury all his money in a hole. A sailor gave his sonny nearly half a pint of money and told him he should buy a suit of clothes. But he saw a pretty maiden with all kinds of posies laden, and he gave her all his money for a rose. Then the sailor gave his sonny nearly half a pint of money to buy a little garden and a house. But he found him the next day in a shop on Yesler Way, a-buying cheese and crackers for a mouse. The stove. A stove is a thing that gets awfully hot and fries up your meat or whatever you've got. It's made out of iron and hinges and screws and filled up with shakers and dampers and flues. It's not very long and it's not very wide. It's got blackening on top and ashes inside. The Thunder Baby. Have you heard of the Thunder Baby way up in the big blue sky? You've seen his cradle, maybe, and maybe you've heard him cry. Most of the time he's sleeping, rolled up in a big white cloud. But when he's awake and hungry, he bellows awfully loud. And when he is crying, sometimes you can hear his teardrops fall with a patter, patter, patter against the garden wall. But when he's madder in mischief, he rolls and growls and spits, and kicks the clouds all 40 ways and gives the weather fits. Then tears come down in bucketfuls, and children dance for joy, till the sun comes out and soundly spanks her thunder baby boy. Hinky-Pinky Pearly Earl. Hinky-Pinky Pearly Earl, 20 nobles and a churl. Some are fat and some are lean, one in red and one in green. Prior, priest, and Pearly Earl, 20 nobles and a churl. Tipsy Tom. Tipsy Tom, the naughty fellow, dressed his wife in pink and yellow, set her in an apple tree and said, "Now catch a bumblebee." End of section 10. Section 11 of the Peter-Patter Book of Nursery Rhymes by Leroy F. Jackson. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by LittlePeanut. Jolly Jinks. Jolly Jinks, the sailor man, went to sea in an oyster can, but he found the water wet. Fishes got into his net, so he pulled the boat to shore and vowed he'd sail the seas no more. Transformation. Auntie Ellen found her poodle, mercy goodness sake, playing with the mullywumps down along the lake. And when she called him tenderly, he didn't want to come. It took her over half an hour to get the rascal home. She washed him well with shaving soap, pumice stone, and lye. She showered him and scoured him and hung him up to dry. And now he sits there quite serene, the sweetest poodle ever seen. The Thief Chase. Bricks and bones, sticks and stones, I chased the thief through 20 zones. I found his hat on Ararat, and hurried on as quick as scat. In a day or two I found his shoe, where he had sailed from Timbuktu. I met the goat that ate his coat upon the road to Terre Haute. At last, all worn and quite forlorn, I chased him up the Matterhorn. Somebody. Somebody give me a peanut, somebody give me a pear. I want to go down to the circus and feed all the animals there. Consolation. A dime and a dollar took me by the collar and whispered this word in my ear. We must leave you tomorrow, but prithee don't sorrow. We will come back to see you next year. The Robin and the Squirrel. Said the robin to the squirrel, "How do you do?" Said the squirrel to the robin, "How are you?" "Oh, I've got some cherry pies and a half a dozen flies and a kettle full of beetles on the stew." Said the squirrel to the robin, "How do you do?" Said the robin to the squirrel, "How are you?" "I've a nest that's nice and neat and a wife that can't be beat, and I'm every bit as happy now as you." The King had a platter. The king had a platter of brisket and batter. The prince had a Bellington bun. The queen had a rose to put to her nose as soon as the dinner was done. Rain. The lightning split the sky in two and set the clouds to leaking, just as dear old Pastor Brown began his Sunday speaking. He told about the awful rain that fell in Noah's day, And one by one the happy smiles began to fade away. In half an hour all the people put on their rubber coats, and when he finished everyone was out and building boats. End of section 11. Section 12 of the Peter Patter Book of Nursery Rhymes by Leroy F. Jackson. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by LittlePeanut. Old Father McNether. Old Father McNether, he sorts out the weather and takes what he pleases, I'm told. With a big turkey feather he mixes the weather and makes it blow hot and blow cold. Jerry was a joker. Jerry was a joker. He carried off the poker and dressed it up from head to heel in clover tops and orange peel, and fed it bones and barley meal. Poor old rusty poker. King Kokum. King Kokum lay snoozing upon his brass bed. Oh, play an old tune on your fiddle. With shoes on his feet and a crown on his head, oh, tune up your rusty old fiddle. He dreamed of a land where the lions were tame, where they fried their lamb chops on a griddle, where they called all the parrots and monkeys by name. Oh, play us a tune on your fiddle. He dreamed of a sea filled with raspberry pop, with a coconut isle in the middle, where the stones and the boulders had icing on top. Go strike up a tune on your fiddle. He dreamed of a sky where the moonbeams all danced, while a comet was telling a riddle, where the stars and the planets and the sun dogs all pranced, while the moon played his fiddle-dee-diddle. Old Mrs. Skinner. Old Mrs. Skinner had dumplings for dinner and sat on a very high stool. When she cut through the hide, there was nothing inside, which I'm sure was not often the rule. Oh, mother. Oh, mother, come quickly and see, the house in the farmyard has gone on a spree. The pig's in the pantry, the chickens are out, the parrot is perched on the tea kettle spout, and mercy, oh mercy, what shall I do? A rat has run off with my very best shoe. Celery and Tommy Toe. Two funny friends that you all know are Celery and Tommy Toe. About as queer as friends can be are Tommy Toe and Celery. For hours they sit there grim and stable, side by side upon the table. Tom is red and Cella pale. His blushes are of no avail. She sits in spite of his endeavor, firm and undisturbed as ever. A funny pair, you must agree, this Tommy Toe and Celery. If I were richer. If I were richer, I'd buy a picture with scenery on it, Jollicaware, storks here and there, and a funny affair with ladies on it. In half a minute I'd mix up in it a wonderful drink, peppermint ice, lemons and spice, tastes pretty nice. What do you think? The Army of the Queen. Oh, the army of the Queen, the army of the Queen. Some are dressed in turkey red and some are dressed in green. A colonel and a captain, a corporal in between. Their guns are filled with powder, and their swords are bright and keen. So toot your little trumpet trumpet for the army of the Queen. End of section 12. Section 13 of the Peter Patter Book of Nursery Rhymes by Leroy F. Jackson. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by LittlePeanut. Romulus. Romulus, father of Rome, ran off with a wolf and he wouldn't come home. When he grew up, he founded a city with an eagle, a bear, and a tortoise-shell kitty. The hero. My dad was a soldier and fought in the wars. My grandfather fought on the sea. And the tales of their daring and valor, of course, put the sand and the ginger in me. I'm not scared of tigers or any wild beast. I could fight with a lion all right. I wouldn't be afraid of a bear in the least, excepting perhaps in the night. But sister's she's scary as scary can be. She's even afraid of the bark of a tree. Pensive Percy. Percy, when a little boy, was quiet as a mouse. He never set the barn afire, nor battered down the house. He used to sit for hours and hours just gazing at the moon and feeding little fishes sarsaparilla from a spoon. Moon, oh moon in the empty sky. Moon, oh moon in the empty sky, why do you swing so low? Pretty moon with the silver ring and long bright beams where the fairies cling, where do you always go? I go to the land of the Siamese, Ceylon and the great plateau, over the seas where Sinbad sailed, where Moses crossed and Pharaoh failed. There's where I always go. Ragman. Ragman, ragman, taggy, taggy, ragman, tell us what you've got there in your sack. Oh, it's full of rhymes and riddles, jingles, jokes, and hidey-diddles, this bundle that I carry on my back. Oh, tell us, funny ragman, grinny, skinny ragman, where did you pick up all your funny rhymes? Some were dancing with cornflowers, some were hiding in church towers, sprinkled helter-skelter by the chimes. Ragman, ragman, nice old taggy ragman, sing us just one jingle-tingle song. Why, my dears, I've got a plenty. Sing you one, I'll sing you 20. I've been hoping you would ask me all along. Whenever I go out to walk. Whenever I go out to walk, all the geese begin to gawk, and when I start to wander back, all the ducks begin to quack. A free show. Mr. McCune can whistle a tune. Old Uncle Strong can sing us a song. Benjamin Bittle can play on the fiddle. Captain O'Trigg can dance us a jig. And I, if I'm able, will tell you a fable. Billy Bumpkins. Hi-ho, Billy Bumpkins, how'd you grow your pumpkins? At 6 o'clock I sows 'em. At 10 o'clock I hose 'em, and just before I goes to bed, I puts 'em in the pumpkin shed. Tell us, Billy Bumpkins, how'd you sell your pumpkins? I lends 'em to the ladies, I gives 'em to the babies, and trade 100 for a kiss to any pretty little miss. End of section 13. Section 14 of the Peter Patter Book of Nursery Rhymes by Leroy F. Jackson. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by LittlePeanut. Blue flames and red flames. Blue flames and red flames in a world all dark. Blue flames and red flames and a tiny spark. Hurrying to heaven lest it should be late, lest the cautious seraphim close the shining gate, and leave the little wanderer forevermore to fly, like an orphan angel through the endless sky. Timothy Grady. Poor little Timothy Grady screwed up his face at a lady, and Jiminy Jack it wouldn't come back. The louder he hollered, the tighter it grew. His eyes are all red, and his lips are all blue. Oh, mercy me, what in the world will he do? Poor little Timothy Grady. Captain Tickle and his nickel. Captain Tickle had a nickel in a paper sack. He threw it in the river and he couldn't get it back. Captain Tickle spent his nickel for a rubber ball, and when he cut it open there was nothing there at all. Grandmother Grundy. Oh, Grandmother Grundy, now what would you say if the katydids carried your glasses away, carried them off to the top of the sky, and used them to watch the eclipses go by? Needles and pins. Needles and pins, hooks and eyes, I saw a donut in the skies. Flipperjinks the circus clown climbed a tree and got it down. A toe rhyme. Tassel is a captain, Tinsel is a mare, Tony is a baker boy with lasses in his hair, Tipsy is a sailor with anchors on his chest, and Tiny is the baby boy who bosses all the rest. Harry Hooker. Harry Hooker had a book and couldn't find a teacher, but still he managed very well. He climbed a box and rang a bell and turned into a preacher. Jelly Jake and Butter Bill. Jelly Jake and Butter Bill, one dark night when all was still, pattered down the long dark stair, and no one saw the guilty pair, pushed aside the pantry door, and there they found everything galore: honey, raisins, orange peel, cold chicken aplenty for a meal, gingerbread enough to fill 2 such boys as Jake and Bill. Well, they ate and ate and ate, gobbled at an awful rate, till I'm sure they soon weighed more, double than what they did before. And then it's awful, still it's true, the floor gave way and they went through, filled so full they couldn't fight. Slowly they sank out of sight. Father, mother, cousin Ann, cook and nurse and furnace man, fished in 40 dozen ways after them for 20 days. But not a soul has chanced to get a glimpse or glimmer of them yet, and I'm afraid we never will, poor Jelly Jake and Butter Bill. End of section 14. Section 15 of the Peter Patter Book of Nursery Rhymes by Leroy F. Jackson. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by LittlePeanut. Cut up a caper. Cut up a caper, you've got a paper, and I've got a widget of string. You'll be the army, and let nothing harm me, for I am the captain and king. Eat, eat, eat. Here come the sweet potatoes, and here's the Sunday meat. I guess we must be ready now to eat, eat, eat. I'm going to have the nicey plate and Daddy's leather seat, and wear my patent leather shoes to eat, eat, eat. My Daddy's talking all about the war in some old fleet. I wonder if he never, never, never wants to eat. We're going to have some apple cake, we're going to have a treat. Oh, hurry, hurry, Daddy, let us eat, eat, eat. Hetty Hutton. Hetty Hutton, here's a button, sew it on your dress. Willie Waller, here's $1, maybe more or less. Mr. Schuster, here's a rooster, put him in a pen. Mr. Saxon, get an axe and let him out again. A big fat potato. A big fat potato lay down on a clod in the shade of some burdock and tall goldenrod, and he dreamed he were king of the whole garden plot, with a palace and a throne and a crown with a lot of jewels and diamonds and gold till it shone like the front of a show when the lights are turned on. He had to be minded by all of the plants. When he whistled, the radishes knew they must dance. When he tooted his horn, the cucumbers must sing. To a vegetable crowd gathered round in a ring, he made all the cabbages stand in a row, while a sunflower instructed them just how to grow. The bright yellow pumpkins he painted light blue, took the clothes off the scarecrow and made him buy new. He strutted and sputtered and thought it was grand to be king and commander o'er all the wide land. But at last he woke up with an awful surprise and found a blind mole kicking sand in his eyes. A bundle of hay. A bundle of hay from Baffin's Bay, a Johnny cake from Roan, a man and a mule from Ultima Thule to carry the cargo home. Peter Popper. Peter Popper Dopper Dan, catch a moonbeam if you can, climb a cedar 10 feet high, and pick the planets from the sky. You're a wonder, little man, Peter Popper Dopper Dan. Old Father Annam. Old Father Annam on New Year's Day picked up his bags of months and years, thrust in his hand in a careless way, and pulled a wee fellow out by the ears. "There you are," he said to the waiting crowd. "He's as good as any I have in my pack. I never can tell, but I hope to be proud of the little rascal when I come back." The Tippany Flower. Oh, what will you take for a Tippany flower, and what will you take for a pansy? I'll take a smile for the Tippany flower, and a kiss for the pretty pansy. End of section 15. Section 16 of the Peter-Patter Book of Nursery Rhymes by Leroy F. Jackson. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by LittlePeanut. Here comes a cabbage. Here comes a cabbage with a bonnet on its head, a pretty purple bonnet with a bow of blue and red. And here comes a bottle with a collar round its neck, a handsome linen collar, too, without a spot or speck. Next comes a meat saw, his job is biting beef, and according to the cleaver he has gold in all his teeth. And last of all there comes along, amid the ringing cheers, a princely Indian cornstalk with rings in both his ears. Plenty. There are plenty feathers on a hen and prickers on a rose. There is plenty roaring in a den of lions, goodness knows. There are plenty fishes in the lake and islands in the sea. There are plenty raisins in this cake for even you and me. The Runaways. A pipe and a spoon and a 10-penny nail stole a dish-pan and went for a sail. But the cook he grew curious, fussy and furious, gathered his trappings and went on their trail. He found them that night in a pitiful plight, and sent them all home on the 10 o'clock mail. The Salesman. Hi, hi, who will buy a wee little cloud for the pretty blue sky? Some are purple, some are red, all are soft as a feather bed. Hi, little children, won't anyone buy one little cloud for the pretty blue sky? A race to Moscow. A race to Moscow before the close of day. A race to Moscow, a long, long way. First comes a butterfly a-riding on a frog. Next comes a water rat a-floating on a log. A caterpillar on the fence, a hopper in the hay. Who will get to Moscow before the close of day? A prince from Pepperville. A prince came down from Pepperville in satin and in lace. He wore a bonnet on his head and whiskers on his face. And when he came to Battleburg, this is what befell. He gave the king and cabinet half a peanut shell. Boats. Hitch up your cattle and drive to Seattle to see all the boats come in. From Kibby and Kobe and Panama Dobie, and some from the islands of Min. They're bringing us rices and cocoa and spices and pineapples done up in tin. And maybe Aunt Dinah will come back from China if ever the boats get in. Pretty things. Pretty poppies, pretty trees, pretty little lettuce leaves, pretty pebbles, red and brown, pretty floating thistledown, pretty baby curly head, standing in a pansy bed, pretty clouds all white and curled. Oh, the great big pretty world. End of section 16. Section 17 of the Peter Patter Book of Nursery Rhymes by Leroy F. Jackson. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by LittlePeanut. Did you ever go to the watering trough and watch the sparrows drink? Did you ever go to Potter's Pond and see the divers sink? Did you ever steal to the barn at night and watch the hoot owls think? Hootum tootum, clear the track. Hootum tootum, clear the track. I caught a coon on Kamiak. Colonel Clapp and Uncle Rome have hired a hack to bring it home. Dr. Drake. On a hummock by the lake stands the home of Dr. Drake. Poor old doctor, how he works! Week by week he never shirks, pulling teeth for guinea fowl, soothing puppies when they howl, whittling out a hickory peg for a gander's broken leg, giving medicine away about 100 times a day, linseed oil and elder bark to a croaking meadow lark, nasty bitter yarrow tea to a tipsy bumblebee, a poultice made of plantain leaves to cure a rabbit with the heaves, fever, colic, cramp, or stitch, kitten croup, or beaver's itch. Any kind of pain or ache is cured by dear old Dr. Drake. Babies. Come to the land where the babies grow, like flowers in the green, green grass, tiny babes that swing and crow whenever the warm winds pass, and laugh at their own bright eyes aglow in a fairy looking-glass. Come to the sea where babies sail in ships of shining pearl, borne to the west by a golden gale of sunbeams all a-whirl. And perhaps a baby brother will sail to you, my little girl. 20 Thieves from Albion. 20 thieves from Albion, all with butcher knives, coming on the dead run, fighting for their lives. See the man from our town in a fancy vest, knocking all the big ones down, chasing all the rest. As I came out of Grundy Greet. As I came out of Grundy Greet, 4 cats were marching down the street. One was long and grey and thin, with lots of whiskers on his chin. One was round and sleek and fat, he must have been a butcher's cat. One was a dapper, slight and frail, with bells and tassels on his tail. And one had starry yellow eyes, almost as big as pumpkin pies. These 4 came marching down the street, as I came out of Grundy Greet. End of section 17. Recording by LittlePeanut. End of the Peter Patter Book of Nursery Rhymes by Leroy F. Jackson.